We've finally made it through to the last episode of Drug Free Australia's Injecting Rooms scam series. And in this episode, we are looking at just who these evaluators are. Well, a good place to start would be with Vancouver, where we need to summarise what we saw back in episode 3. In 2011, the evaluators claimed a 35% reduction in overdose deaths close to insight, and they, in that study, ruled out any displacement effect from movement of dealers, users, and discarded needles away from the area around insight due to radically changed policing, a displacement effect that they had measured in a 2004 journal study where they had vehemently condemned the police. And yet, in 2011, they denied any knowledge of the policing changes. So here is the 2004 study, just to remind you what you saw back then, and note the evaluators' names down here, very important. And here is the 2011 study where they clearly have forgotten what they saw in 2004, with its bitter complaint about change policing and displacement effects. Note the evaluators' names once again. How does an injecting room get to fall on its feet like this with evaluators like that? They either have really bad memories or they are perpetrating a fraud. And can anyone suggest a third option? So where did they find those evaluators? It all becomes clear when we look at medical journal studies years before the 2003 opening of Insight. And here is one from 2001, advocating for a new injecting room, and compare the names of the activists who are involved with the names of the government-funded evaluators on the previous slides. Here is another medical journal article from 2002, before the injecting room opened, advocating, of course, for a new injecting room. So there are no mysteries after all. The activists and the architects of Insight became its so-called independent evaluators. The 2020 evaluation of the Melbourne facility, which opened its doors in 2018, had 5 so-called independent evaluators. And that is what our politicians were told. So we asked the question, how independent was their chair, Margaret Hamilton? Well, first we need to understand something about harm reduction organisations around the globe. They are a key player in the push for injecting rooms internationally, as evidenced by claims in their own reports. And here is our independent chair, listed as one of Harm Reduction Australia's own. Harm Reduction Australia is an affiliate of Harm Reduction International. What of John Ryan from Paddington Institute? Well, you can see from this slide that he's very much involved with Harm Reduction International. And then what of Ken Lay, the former police chief? Well, here in 2017, a year before the facility was opened, he is obviously an activist who is pushing for the new facility. It's a playbook that was established back in 2003 with the first Sydney government-funded evaluation. And again, we have 5 so-called independent evaluators. Note here that the medical director, Dr. Ingrid Van Beek, is part of the University of New South Wales medical faculty, as is Helen Lapsley, as is John Caldwell, and of course, Richard Mattick, the chair. Now, they would have you believe that with 200 in the university's medical faculty, that they don't really talk to each other. But birds of a feather flock together, and they are often guest speakers at the same conferences and share committees and the like. And here is Richard Mattick's organisation, NDARC, which is located at New South Wales University. A year before the injecting room opened, they were boasting of their activism in getting it approved. And then we should have a look at Don Weatherburn. He was somebody who was keenly involved in shaping the injecting room trial in this 1999 New South Wales Drug Summit that first approved the idea. Politicians were always told that these were independent evaluators. Independent, independent, independent. Were they independent? Well, no, not at all. But politicians heard independent, 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 like a hypnotizing mantra.